This is the second tutorial for the MSc in Advanced Sustainable Design at Edinburgh University, where we'll be looking at the application of IES, and in this case the use of materials and where they're allocated and how you can change and manipulate them in your model. So if you want to bring up this model that you were using last time, we're going to look at that again. Hi, so after last time's tutorial where we set up this model and we managed to put some extra windows onto the main building over here, and we also built some adjacent buildings, which are these pink ones, and put some extra rooms of different shapes on the right over here. And what I want to look at, rather than looking straight at shading, is what are some of these rooms made up of. So I'm going to start with something nice and simple like this very simple cube over here. And if we go to the button on the right here, that is Assign Thermal Constructions, it shows me a little model of the room, and it shows me that there are three types of elements in it: the floor, the roof and the walls. Now to show what this is made of from these lists over here, this model will light up red when I get the correct construction. It's going to be one of the assigned construction types, which is the top list here. The bottom list are ones that we could use that are available to be moved up into here. So for example, nothing is lighting up, so it's not that standard wall construction. But if I click on the next one, I can see all the walls are made of this particular wall build-up, which has got a code of that there. Similarly, if I go to the roof, it's the second construction there as well, and in the floor it's the second construction as well. So obviously I haven't explained what these constructions are, and I'll come back to that when I can show you how all these constructions are built up, because you can see they are essentially sandwiches of different materials which form, in this case, something that meets different British regulations. To display it maybe most easily, if I click to the wall constructions, we've got this big old sandwich here. If you were looking, say, to turn this into an object that's really just there doing a shading job, but you want it to be made out of just metal, you can see that already in wall constructions here we have one that's sheet steel and one that's sheet aluminium. And this would just turn what is a full wall build-up into something that's already been set as a single layer of metal. So to swap that over, it's very simple. What we need to do is find, again, the wall build-up that's currently assigned, which is that one because it's lighting up red. And then on the layer below, I'm going to try and change all these walls to being sheet aluminium. All I have to do is highlight that one and then click Replace, and you'll suddenly see it's appeared up the top here. So that's no longer the correct construction. If I click on aluminium, suddenly it all lights up. So I've now allocated all the walls to be a different construction. And you could do that for each of the objects here. Once again, that's what's currently up. And we could change it to an uninsulated flat roof just by clicking Replace, and suddenly it's up there and you can see it's illuminated. So the next question is, what happens if you want to know what these are made up of, or you want something that's not on that list? So we'll go to that next. So if we just close that there, it's already saved those objects there, and what we're going to do is go and have a look at the building template manager over here, and clicking on constructions, this is a full list of one thing that could be applied to any building when you start drawing it, and we're going to start playing with that now. So this here is the templates that are set when you start drawing a room each time, and you can re-change this for all these different allocations of properties to that room on the left hand side. There's sort of fairly simple information at the top. At the bottom there's lighting in different varieties, there's heating under the thermal ones, ventilation under macro flow, and what we're going to look at is the constructions. And you can see these are the different templates that you can pick from. And as you pick between different ones, you'll see that different constructions have been selected So if you pick one of these when you start drawing a new room, it will automatically apply all of these constructions to anything that's within it, from walls and windows all the way down through all the vegetation. You can see it's got the topographical shade in it. Metal box one here has already got the walls set to sheet aluminium, and it's got different things. What we're going to do is we're going to set this one to what we want it, so that in the future we just start drawing with the right materials. But what we need to know is, what do these are actually made up of? And you can go into the Apache construction database here at the bottom to bring this up, and you can also bring it up on the top toolbar here. And this allows you to click on any one of these constructions, and it gives you a little table of what that's made up of. So, having brought up the project constructions database, the first tab you get are all the constructions that are actually assigned somewhere in the model. But if you click on wall, partition or ground floor, you can see that there are lots more that aren't actually already assigned that you can pick from. So if I quickly go to the wall ones, we can see a couple here. The one that we previously had assigned, if you double click on the code for it, you can see the sandwich that it's made up of, which, you know, you've drawn it as a single plane, but in fact it's worked out that this is made from brick on one side, and it's got a cavity in it, and insulation and gypsum plasterboard and so on. If you want to add another cavity, all you would do is click on cavity here. Okay, let's try that one. There you go. It's put in a cavity alongside it, and fairly easy to change the width of that. Let's make that 50 as well. Or if you needed to double the thickness of your facing brick, I could go to 200 here. And if you notice up the top here, it's already calculating a U value, and as you hit return, it recalculates it very quickly. So I'll click that OK. And now, just to check what the aluminium is, it's a millimeter thick aluminium. That's not very thick, so I'm going to quickly change that to 2 millimeters. Click OK, and yeah, that is a single sheet of aluminium, as we thought it would be. So having adjusted what our wall build-ups are made of, maybe we want to have a quick look at what the roofs of that particular room could be made up of. And again, one of these green things here has been highlighted. Let's say I want to get the same construction from my wall on my roof, regardless of whether it's aluminium or something else. And as you can see, generally these tend to be a completely different set of constructions, which is normal in most conditions. But if I just cancel that and go back to walls, there's a fairly simple way to transfer one thing from one to another. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight my sheet aluminium, and then right clicking on this, I'm going to duplicate the construction, and I've got a second one here. So I can see I've got one sheet aluminium that's already allocated, and it's down as an external wall, and another one that isn't allocated. And if I just say that's now a roof, it vanishes from the list. And if I quickly go over to roof now, I've suddenly got a roof construction that's made out of sheet aluminium. So I should be able to now pick from that if I wanted to. Well, I think what I'll do is I'll do the same, so that I've got the same thing for a floor. So I'll highlight that again, duplicate construction, and once again I'll now make that a ground floor, and it vanishes off, and it's appeared in there as well. So having set aluminium to be available as a roof and a floor, which won't happen that often, but anyway, we want to put this into a template that automatically draws with these. So if you click OK, it'll probably ask you to save at that point, and make sure you do. You'll see that we're back to the template sheet, and you can bring this up if it isn't there fairly easily. But what we want to do now is, in the metal box one that I already set, that I already called it this, is to change that flat roof construction to aluminium by scrolling down to it and doing the same, that this is now available as a floor, sheet aluminium, and clicking OK. So now when I draw a new room, I have to go back to plan or elevation, click on prism. it gives you the option over here of the room template you want to pick from. And it was just going from a default before. If you double click here, it gives you the choice of the construction template you want to use. And I'm going to use the metal box one. Draw a quick metal box. Now, how do I know it's metal? I select it, go over to Assign Constructions, having a quick look here. Need to find what this floor is made of. It should be sheet aluminium. Ah, not that one, but that one. There we go. Roof, again, sheet aluminium. Excellent, it's lighting up. And external walls, sheet aluminium. Yes, we've got it all. So I'm just going to close that. And we managed to draw a box from scratch as aluminium. So to recap then, if we want to now created these materials in the walls, we go back and select one of our previous rooms and other thermal constructions, and we want the roof of this to be aluminium as well. All I have to do is find what is actually already a roof made up of, which is this uninsulated felt roof. Come down in the possibles till I get sheet aluminium and replace. And that has now taken the material that I've created, in this case just copied over from the walls, and made it available onto that roof. And I close it there, and that's allowed you to swap from one thing to the other. Fairly straightforward. The next thing I really want to do is to show you how to get extra materials in that maybe you haven't seen before. And this is probably done best by going, if you can click on the tabular BTM, it goes straight to the thermal conditions, and again you can bring up the construction database from there. And this is where we would probably start to go to one of our, let's go to an external wall condition, and we could start playing around with one of these to add an extra bit of material in, which you do, as I said, by clicking on System Materials and bringing something in from over here. So looking here, it looks like there's not that many materials, but that's only because we're just in the asphalts and other roofing. See, there's only a few there. But if I quickly switch to concrete, you'll find there's a lot more there of different densities and different properties. And you can see there's a lot more other types of materials you can pick from. You just need to know which ones to look in. And close that for a minute. What I want to do is add a material from that list into this list. There's the System Materials button. I think it was off the bottom before. So first thing you want to do is create a new layer to put it in there. If you want to add something to it. So I'm going to highlight a layer, copy it, and in this case insert it, and it'll put it just next to it. If you click add, it would add it on the end of the list. So I want to change that for insulation. So what I need to do is again click on System Materials, go down to insulation, pick one, in this case expanded polystyrene. I'm going to copy that, close it, and then just paste it where the other layer is. And you can see the U value just dropped a fair old chunk there. At that point I can just close it and I've added it, or I can, well, it's probably normally the case, adjust it to a thickness I need, and again it adjusts itself. And okay, and I've managed to insert an extra layer in without too much hassle. So we've now amended this one here. What we really should have done before we did that was to make a new layer for it so that you're not deleting the old one in the first place. So if I just highlight this one again and right click on it, I am allowed to duplicate the construction. So it's made a new layer that's got exactly the same stuff in it. And what I want to do is give that a more accurate name to reflect its new construction. So all I'm going to click is in the top button is there to give it a new name, and click OK. Happy with that, but of course I don't want two things with two different names with the same construction, so I'm just going to take out my extra layer of insulation from here, click OK, and now I can pick from between the two of them. You may want to start from absolute scratch and start adding things in, and the way to do that is to click on Add a New Construction. Remember we're in walls here, so it will call it wall, and it'll take the most basic wall construction it can think of, which in this case is a double layer of brick, or rather a single layer of 2 brick thick. If you want to then start adding things into that, you would just highlight it, copy it, insert it. You've got a new layer. Let's get ourselves a cavity between those two, and then you can start going around and changing these to be other materials as we did previously, but I'll just leave it at that. Okay for now, but I'll just call this brick wall. Okay, and there it is to select from. So having created our new brick wall here, remember there's a couple of ways we can insert this into our model. So I'll click OK. It will probably ask you to save at that point. And what we're going to do is just close that's the table of all the different wall constructions. First of all, you could of course just pick a particular object, use assign thermal constructions, go to the external wall, find what external wall's made of, find our new wall construction, which is suddenly available at the bottom here, and replace it, which I won't do just now. Or otherwise, you could create your whole new template, which is very easily done just by clicking the plus at the bottom of here. I'm going to pick the metal box one, add plus, because that's what I want, something that's very similar to that, but just with a brick wall instead. I'm going to call it metal and brick box, get rid of the copy bit, and then all I want to do if I want to start drawing again is just replace the external metal wall with a brick wall, and when I start drawing next time using the prisms up here or the cones or everything else, and I pick on the appropriate template, so construction, I can pick on metal and brick box and we'll automatically draw that. So one last exercise I want you to do is to put a partition into one of these zones over here. I want to make sure that we're working on the right level by drawing a line from there to there, so just doing it in the bottom level. And to make that easier, I'm going to turn off all the upper layers, and then I'm going to go back to the plan, deselect that, and then I'm going to click on the construction lines because I wanted to make my partition exactly on the line from that corner to that corner. So all I need to do is click there, and I've got a construction line. Now the next thing I want to do is to pick the zone that I want to subdivide. There we go. And if I now click the button next to partition, next to the construction lines, it allows me to subdivide it. Ask whether I want to divide it into 2 whole new zones, like 2 new rooms, or subzones. But either way, it'll do calculations for either side. And you can have it as either a gap or with partitions. Let's make it a partition. And all I've got to do is click on that corner and click on that corner. And if I now, and you can see it's forming 2 separate sections. And if I go back to the axo, I've got a partition there. And all I need to do to get rid of the construction line is click the other button and it's gone. Now if I go down a layer, highlight that wall and see it, it's actually made of a pre-decided partition material. So the starting point here is that this partition, as you can see, is made up of that construction, which is plasterboard with brick and then plasterboard, which means it'll have a white surface to both sides. So I'll just close that for now. And what I want you to do is to first of all see how that partition has affected the light levels inside here. So if I'm going to come down to Flux DL, I'm going to save the changes to the building. It's concentrating on the right level there, and I will do calculations. And you can see it's starting to do calculations around all these windows here, and it's already worked out there's a partition going up the side there. And you can see how the partition's affecting that. And obviously you can take a snapshot of that and save it. And what I'd like you to now do is to go back up to model it, change the material on that to something like aluminium, something that's a bit more reflective, and see how that affects the light levels, and then put another partition in and see how that affects the light levels and play around with the materials between them. And that can be the start of you working up how you're going to deal with your own models. And I hope that's been of some use, and we'll talk about it more in the tutorials. Thanks a lot.